Shri Om Vishma Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Asachara Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai, Shri Radha Kusham Kundri Rupadani ki, Yamuna Mai ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Navadip Maipur Dham ki jai, Purushottam Chaitra Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Gaura Gaura Premanande, all glories and devotees, all glories and devotees, all glories and devotees, all glories, to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 15, Text 8. Text 8, correct? 7. Did we do 6 and then go to 7 because yeah, together. So we're doing 8. Yasya vacha praja sarva. Yasya vacha praja sarva. Kavastanteva yantritaha. Kavastanteva yantritaha. Haranti balim mayatas. Haranti balim mayatas. Tasmai mukyayate namaha. Tasmai mukyayate namaha. Yasya vacha praja sarva. Kavastantyeva yantritaha. Haranti balimayatas. Tasmai mukyayate namaha. Vaishnavas. Yasya vacha praja sarva. Kavastantyeva yantritaha. Haranti balimayatas. Tasmai mukyayate namaha. Yasya vacha praja sarva. Kavastantyeva yantritaha. Haranti balimayatas. Tasmai mukyayate namaha. Yasya vacha praja sarva. Kavastantyeva yantritaha. Haranti balimayatas. Tasmai mukyayate namaha. Yasya vacha praja sarva. Gavastantyeva tantritaha. Haranti balimayatas. Tasmai Vaishnavis. Yasya vacha praja sarva. Kavastantyeva yantritaha. Haranti balimayatas. Tasmai mukyayate namaha. Yasya vacha praja sarva. Yavastantyeva yantritaha. Ahanti balimayatas. Tasmai mukyayate namaha. Yasya, of whom, vacha, by the Vedic directions, prajaha, living entities, sarvaha, all, gava, bulls, tantya, by a rope, eva, as, yantritaha, are directed, haranti, offer, take away, balim, presentation, ingredients for worship, ayataha, under control, tasmai, unto him, mukyaya, unto the chief person, te, unto you, namaha, respectful obeisances. Translation and purport for His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. All the living entities within the universe are conducted by the Vedic directions, as a bull is directed by the rope attached to its nose. No one can violate the rules laid down by the Vedic literatures. To the chief person who has contributed the Vedas, we offer our respect. Repeat after me. All the living entities within the universe are conducted by the Vedic directions. As a bull is directed by the rope attached to its nose. No one can violate the rules laid down in the Vedic literatures. To the chief person who has contributed the Vedas, we offer our respect. Purport. The Vedic literatures are the laws of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot violate the injunctions given in the Vedic literatures any more than one can violate the state laws. Any living creature who wants real benefit in life must act according to the direction of the Vedic literature. The conditioned souls who have come to this material world for material sense gratification are regulated by the injunctions of the Vedic literature. Sense gratification is just like salt. One cannot take too much or too little, but one must take some salt in order to make one's foodstuff palatable. Those conditioned souls who have come to this material world should utilize their senses according to the direction of the Vedic literature. Otherwise, they will be put into more miserable condition of life. No human being or demigod can enact laws like those of the Vedic literature, because the Vedic regulations are prescribed by the Supreme Lord. Translation again. All the living entities within the universe are conducted by the Vedic directions. As a bull is directed by the rope attached to its nose. No one can violate the rules laid down in the Vedic literatures. To the chief person who has contributed the Vedas, we offer our respect. Om Ajnana Tamara Nibarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yenai Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. Hare Krishna. I see amongst the crowd Vaishnavis who are definitely more qualified than I am. I'm doing this Bhagavatam class as a service, but I definitely don't feel qualified to sit up here. So I pray to the Vaishnavas, the Vaishnavis, and Acharyas and Krishna that I can be of some service, that I can say something of some value. Krishna speaking through me rather than me speaking. So we're reading from the third canto, chapter 15. And I just wanted to give a macroscopic overview before we zoom into what's being spoken in this verse. Throughout the third canto, we heard about Sarga, the topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the encyclopedia of the spiritual world. And it speaks about 10 topics. And the first one is Sarga, or the creation of the totality of the universe. Essentially how the Lord just glances and creates material energy, material universe. And so we learn about those activities of the Lord in Sarga throughout the first part of the third canto. And then we move into Visarga, or what they call subordinate or secondary creation, or creation from Brahma, because through the Sarga, from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu comes the lotus stem, and from the top of that lotus step in Satyaloka, Brahma appears. And when discussing Visarga or Brahma's creation, we have an important personality, Swayambhuva Manu, who is created. And he's an important character because he actually starts the progeny, or the first, or they call him a Prajapati, one who starts the progeny in this universe. And he looks down and he says, I can't really do anything, Brahma, because the earth disk is lodged in the bottom of the ocean, the material ocean. And so that's when Lord Varaha, the first Manvantara appearance of Varaha, comes out of the nose of Lord Brahma and picks up the disk. And in that time, Sukadeva Goswami, or Maitreya, explains to Vajura that there was also a fight that occurred between Lord Varaha and Hiranyaksha, but that's in a different time. It's kind of mixed together. Srimad Bhagavatam is not about linearity, it's about describing the glories of devotees and describing the glories of the Lord. But Vidura picks up on this point and says, tell me about this fight between Hiranyaksha and Lord Varahadev. Tell me about it. I want to know about it. And that's when we get into this cycle, this story about how Lord Varaha appeared, and it had to start with a calamity. And this calamity was the birth of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu from the womb of Diti. See, Diti didn't really follow the Vedic literatures and the directions given to the full extent. Of course, they were pious people, but didn't follow it to the full extent, and therefore great darkness appeared when Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha appeared in the womb of Diti. She tried to keep them suppressed as much as possible because the Devas were in danger. They knew that these two personalities were coming for them. And so we get to this point where the Devas are speaking to Lord Brahma. And in the first part of this 15th chapter, they've used different words to glorify Lord Brahma. In verse 3, they used Vibhu, the great one, Bhagavata, a great Bhagavat, a great person. Deva, the Lord of the demigods. Jagat Data, sustainer of the universe. They've used Lokanath Sikamane, head jewel of all the demigods in other planets. In verse 5 they go, Vijnana Viryaya, the original source of strength and scientific knowledge. Atma Bhavanam, generates all living entities. And just in this verse they've used the word Mukhyaya, the chief person. These are all usually glorification reserved for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so one can ask, why is Lord Brahma being glorified in this way by the Devas? If you look at the position of Lord Brahma, or at least the job description, it's a very tough position to occupy. To be the first living entity to occupy a Brahmanda universe. To be the one which basically absorbs the seed verses of the Bhagavatam and spreads it, to create living entities from the inordinate amount of prakriti or energy that's been created by the Lord already, to disperse all that, to be an architect of this universe, and to do it all himself. That's a very, very tough job. Actually, I don't know if any of you know, but how many years or births does one need to perform austerities in order to take birth as Lord Brahma? 100 consecutive lives with no fall down, full austerity, and no going down into animal birth and having it easy in ant life, or moth life or something like that. It has to be proper. So it's a very tough job description. But on top of it, Lord Brahma is the guru, the original guru in this universe for those who follow him. So this glorification that they're giving Lord Brahma, we should understand, is they're giving it to someone who they know that has performed all these austerities, but is also a teacher of the Vedic literatures. Is a teacher, is a guru. We know that Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Sastra, what the guru speaks is the Vedic literatures. And they are, and Prabhupada has always said, the guru is to be treated like God. The God is the supreme enjoyer, and the guru is God as the servant. And so, in that way, we should understand when we approach personalities like this, especially in our daily lives, whether it is a guru or shiksha guru, or it is someone that's providing us some kind of assistance, we should take this into account, that we should glorify persons when we approach them. Normally, when you go to someone and say, "You were so nice, please," then you know they're coming for something. They're gonna rile me up and get something out of me. But actually, it's a standard in the Vedic lifestyle to glorify someone for what they've contributed, for what they mean to you, and for what you're going to basically ask of them. Because essentially here, their predicament is that their positions are going to be annihilated. That's what they think. The whole darkness has descended. They're in their executive functions of demigods, they have various positions in which they're responsible for, and all of those are in danger. So their entire duty is in danger. So in that respect, who is the one that's actually initially provided that to them, provided the space for them to be able to do that? It's Lord Brahma. And so they glorify what he's done for them to be in that position. And in the same way, for someone which we see a nice quality, something that we can feel that we're perhaps missing in our bhakti, or even some skill that we might want to be able to show to Krishna, to serve Krishna with, we can also use that. Like we can say, Srikanta Sena Prabhu, you chant very nice rounds. What is, please tell me how you do that. Or we can say, Natasha, you make very nice garlands for the deities. How do you do that? We don't normally just go, hey, tell me how to make garlands. Tell me how to chant my rounds. We glorify, because the first position we do is we put that person who is doing such a nice thing in that position of being able to teach us. We put ourselves in a humble position. But going even more of a microscopic lens on this verse, and given we've talked about Lord Brahma as one who has essentially put down the Vedic literatures for the devas to enact, we see that actually dharma, or the Vedic literatures provide dharma, or the prescribed duties. What is prescribed duties? What does duty mean? Does anyone know what duty means? Yeah. The dictionary says obligatory tasks, conduct, service, or function. Another definition says a moral or legal obligation. And the root word of duty is due, something that's due or owed. But if you go to the Sanskrit dharma, the root word is dir, D-H-R. We say in transliteration, dir, which is to hold or support. And we see that in a lot of other Sanskrit words like dhira, someone who's sober, someone who's firm and fixed. You see, the Dhritarashtra, one who is supporting the nation. This dharma means something which is firm, which is fixed. There's no change. It's been there since time immemorial. There's not been a time in which dharma has started and we follow it. It's been always there. So this Vedic dharma is actual dharma. It's always been there. It's just been provided to us. And if we recall in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, in the second verse, what is the dharma that's being described? Do you recall? Kaitav dharma. This cheating religion. That's what's become prominent especially in Kali Yuga. This cheating religion, this man-made religion. This idea that I choose what my duty is, I choose what I do in this life, and I'm going to get the most out of it. And we see people like that today. They become very famous. They become gurus and they have followers. So this problem is identified from the first instance in Srimad Bhagavatam, that people have been following dharma which they have basically concocted themselves. They've concocted themselves. And so in this way we need to remember that we go down further in the Srimad Bhagavatam and it says, Dharmam tu shakshat bhagavat pranitam. Dharma can only come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It doesn't come from us. We have our own imperfections. Anyone who says, I know what your duty is. I know what, and then they haven't. Yeah, it's not from Vedic literature. It's not from an authoritative place. We can kick him in the face with boot, I guess. It's not correct. It's cheating. And so, in the same way that there's always a dharma, there's always been a dharma. In the same stead, we know that it's always been applying to us, whether we know it or not. Just like fire, when a child touches a fire, they're going to get burnt, unfortunately. There's no stopping them. Similarly, this Vedic Dharma, these prescribed rules, they've been in place for us to adhere to, actually. Because it's in our own interest to actually adhere to them. But we've been misguided by our own thinking that we're the enjoyer. Prabhupada says you cannot change Dharma. Just like water is liquid, you cannot make it solid. If water becomes solid, then it is not in its natural state. So when we speak about this Vedic Dharma, what does it consist of? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives essentially an overview of three subheadings in the Vedic Dharma. The first is not really Vedic Dharma. It's the one that I've just described, which is Kamya Dharma or Kamya Karma. This idea of like we just do whatever we want and we have no conception of where things come from, what has been provided to us. Everything, whatever good I am the reason for which everything good has come, and everything bad is someone else's fault. I'm not taking any responsibility for it. And so that's what people who are in the Kamya Dharma, it's not even Dharma, it's Kamya Karma, they perform. And then the next stage, or the Dharma which one is performing in certain circumstances, is called Naimittik Dharma. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur defines it as, it's occasional, circumstantial. One must carry out these Dharma under certain circumstances or on certain occasions. And he gives examples such as performing rites for the departed souls, atoning for sins, and so on. So these duties are performed when we're in this body. But I think the one thing that we should understand, or Prabhupada is trying to make us understand, is that we all have a propensity to enjoy. We all have that little propensity to enjoy. It's actually a massive propensity to enjoy, isn't it? I was waiting for you to tell me. And so, if we just shut up shop, not try to enjoy, just close up, it's not going to work out. Prabhupada says it's like salt. If you don't take the salt in the food, it becomes unpalatable. If you take too much salt, it's bad. I don't know you guys have been in a position where you put too much salt, especially when you make for so many people. You put it and it's like, that's when we do so much. But even when we put too little, we hear from people, there's not enough salt, Prabhu. It's nothing, I can't taste anything. One example of this is persons who obviously have this wanting or desire to enter into sex life. And so there is a dharma that's provided. There's a way in which they can channelize their enjoyment so they don't get put into misery, so they don't become polluted, essentially. This idea of if they go senselessly into this sense gratification, then you'll end up in the Kamya Karma platform, and then you'll have no conception of where things come from, why they're here, what's happening. You think it's all yourself, and you continue living that. And Krishna says, I always cast those persons down. They're essentially demons. I always cast those persons down because there's no help. They have no intelligence to understand. But in this Naimittik Dharma, there's people who perform this without understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead as well. They're on the stage of Karma Kanda. At least they understand that it comes from somewhere. This rain. Even the indigenous population, the old and the pagans, they at least understand that rain comes from somewhere. That fires, pestilence, all of these things come from somewhere, and they have some kind of, they may not have a full conception of where it comes from, but at least they have that intelligence to understand. And so they perform some duties to try to appease that personality, appease that thing that provides them that service, essentially. But after some time, after doing all these things, they realize they're still not happy. They're still stuck in this place where they're doing so much to try to be happy, but misery keeps coming by itself, again and again. They try so hard to be happy, but misery keeps coming by itself. And realizing that, they go, actually this place is full of misery, I'm getting out of here. And so that's when they come to this jnana kanda platform, this stage of wanting to liberate themselves. Get out of here, I'm done. And so, in that respect, we hit a limit, at least in Naimittika Dharma, on the stage of where one doesn't understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when one tries to liberate themselves, they obviously get into so many entanglements, impersonalism, etc. Then there's another duty or dharma which is provided by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is nitya dharma. So that's one's eternal duty. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, it produces auspiciousness for the body, mind and society, and which results in the promotion to other planets after death, or the promotion to the Lord's abode. So this nitya dharma, it's performed especially when one transcends the bodily platform. When one actually understands that I am not this body, because Naimittic Dharma is based off, I am this body, I have certain sense gratificatory needs, I need to satisfy them, I'm going to perform it in a way in which the Vedas provide. But this Nitya Dharma, we understand, hey, actually I can perform all of these things for this body, but I know I'm not this body, and I want to get out of this situation. I don't need this situation. I understand that I'm a part and parcel of the Supreme, and in order to reconnect, religio, to reconnect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I'm going to perform Nitya Dharma in order to do that. And we do this in the Krishna Consciousness Movement. This is what the attempt is. This chanting of Hare Krishna, the Yuga Dharma, Sankirtan, all of this is Nitya Dharma. This is eternal. This connects us to the core of our being, which is a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. But, as we know, as we try to endeavor in this Nitya Dharma, we're still embodied for some reason. Yeah? Because there's so much conditioning. And there is actually a need, we have to accept at some stage that we do have sense desires, that we do have certain needs and requirements in this body for us to be able to continue in this life. So in that respect, we do perform aspects of both. We perform Naimittic Dharma. One of the subheadings under Naimittic Dharma is the Varnashram system, the Varnashram Dharma, which provides people into the lifestyles based on what their qualities are. And so they perform those prescribed duties, what's legal and obligated for them to do based off what their position is. But it doesn't mean that in doing so, the Krishna conscious person, the devotee, is not performing Nitya Dharma. Because that which is performed in that stage, especially when it is for ultimately Krishna, takes the same color. Just like when bell metal, when it goes through a chemical process, becomes gold. Sanatana Goswami says, or if when you get an iron rod and it has the properties of an iron rod, and you put it into fire, and you keep it there for a long time, don't let any other disturbances, and you don't take it away, it then obtains the property of fire, and it incinerates everything you touch it with. So like that, whatever we do in the Naimittic stage, or the stage in which we're taking care of our body, we do yoga. Brahmacharis, Prabhupada said you should do push-ups, take care of his body. We eat good, healthy food. We try to practice as much as we can in the ashrams that we are. In this way, we're actually performing Nitya Dharma. We're actually performing full Krishna consciousness. And if you remember in the Bhagavad Gita, even when we perform things that we might think is completely sense gratificatory, but if it's performed in a regulated sense for Krishna, then actually it becomes Krishna himself. Dharam aviruddho kamosmi. I am sex life in regulative activities. But it's not just sex life, it's karma. It's it's everything under sex life as well, because everything is carried under sex life in our sense gratificatory process. And so, in that respect, as Brahma being the one who, for the Devas, who's provided this opportunity for them to enter into this dharmic lifestyle, they are so grateful, they are so thankful for this. They see it as a great fortune. There's a story of Bhajahari Prabhu in UK. He's walking with Srila Prabhupada. And he says to Prabhupada, you always say that there's no concept of chance in Krishna consciousness, this chance or coincidence. But you say that by great fortune, that people of Kali Yuga can be saved. What does that mean? What is great fortune? And Prabhupada keeps walking. And Bhajahari Prabhu is just walking back and not knowing what happened. Did I say something wrong? And then Prabhupada turns around after a while and says, we are the good fortune. This good fortune is the benediction of Krishna through his devotee. And especially in this Kali Yuga, it's the benediction of Krishna in the form of a devotee, in the position of a devotee. So all those people I was describing before who were performing karma karma, karma dharma, although the Lord says that he casts them perpetually into the lowest forms of life, because that's what they want. Those are the different functions that they have for those people who want those certain things. By good fortune, by the devotee, they're able to transcend from that position. So in that way, the demigods, although we describe them a lot of the times as being on the sakama platform, or wanting certain sense gratification and performing these duties provided, these naimittic duties provided in order to obtain some kind of pleasure, nonetheless they accept and they understand that the Supreme Personality Godhead has provided it through Brahma as a via medium. And so in the same way, we should also be very grateful to everyone who's provided us this opportunity to perform Nitya Dharma, to be able to slowly inch our way in there. Because it's only through their mercy that they open the door. So in that way, I wanted to use this verse and purport to underline that although we, in certain times, although I'm sitting up here and I'm giving a Bhagavatam class, or although we're sitting here and I've been practicing for this many years, I'm initiated, etc., none of this would be possible without the people who provided us the duties and the prescriptions that we've needed in this age, the panacea, things to do, things to not to do, the positions we have, the ashramas that we stay in, the friends that we have, all of that's been provided by someone else. Been provided by Guru, been provided by Krishna, by Lord Chaitanya. So, in that way, I'll end class here, if I take any questions.
Keep adding more sugar, the sugar will cover the sourness which is behind it. In the same way, if the soul stays in the fire, which is so to stay close to Krishna, then it's okay. It's done there, but as soon as it steps away, Krishna's shelter, that means the will cover it.
Yes.
But so my question is, how do we ensure that my Nitika Dharma leads to Nitya Dharma?
So that, yeah. on the comment first, yes, and that the idea of the soul being covered by Maya and taken away is exactly the concept of Tatashta Shakti. This idea of that we're marginal and we're able to be covered, and so we have to be very careful with what to associate with. We're very, very careful, and it'll happen without us even thinking about it. It'll just happen, one day we'll listen to, like this morning, this song was stuck in my head. This dirty song from ages ago was stuck in my head, and I was telling my wife, I was saying, I can't wait to go to Guru Puja, I just want to hear Guru Puja, I can't have this song, and now I have the Guru Puja stuck in my head, so I'm very, very happy. So, in one way, that's one example, is that association is so important. If we underestimate association, or if we think, hey, actually, I'm all right, I'm doing all right here, I'm cool, I've got everything set up and everything's correct, everything's good, then we have a propensity to overestimate how safe we are. Because Maya's duty is to cover and throw. That duty is always there. It's a very thankless job. But when we perform these duties, especially when they're provided in our Vedic literatures, like I said in this verse, then we can actually be assured that when we perform these duties, we're performing them for Krishna consciousness, because they're provided for that purpose. Prabhupada has provided these duties, such as the preliminary stage of the Varnashram system and the ashramas that we're in. He's provided that platform for us to be assured that we will be constantly engaged with Krishna. My example, for example, for me, I know I'm very lazy. I'm very, very lazy. And luckily in my life, I had my brother who was always performing Krishna consciousness. So if I was slacking, I'd feel very bad. I got to do something. Oh, he's chanting, I got to chant. He's awake now. I got to be awake now. Oh, he's offering, and I need to offer. I shouldn't just eat like that. Same thing now. I've got the exact same position with my wife, where if we have deities now, we've got to do it properly. You can't just laze around. Can't just be how our natural position is to want to enjoy, and it's to enjoy for ourselves, without thinking about where that enjoyment's coming from, who's providing that. And so we should always engage in this process, because it's for us. It's in our self-interest actually, and that's the thing that I felt took a long time to actually understand. It's from experience. This is actually in my self-interest. If I perform these things, when I look at them, I don't want to marry. I don't want to do all I don't want to have work, get money. I don't want to do all these things. But when we do them, and we actually do them according to how it's prescribed for us, that's why it's called prescribed. It's provided. If we do it according to that way, then we actually see the benefits. It's in our self-interest. So, any other comments, criticism? Very nice. Yes. And it leads directly to what Krishna says at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityaja. Actually, in one sense, Krishna is saying, let go of all these dharmas. Essentially, that's the ultimate goal, is to let go of all these dharmas and surrender to Krishna. And Prabhupada has some... I wanted to read this one little paragraph from 1866. Prabhupada says, according to the devotional process, one should simply accept such religious principles that will lead ultimately to the devotional service of the Lord. One may perform a particular occupational duty according to his position in the social order, but if by executing his duty one does not come to the point of Krishna consciousness, all his activities are in vain. Anything that does not lead to the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness should be avoided. One should be confident that in all circumstances Krishna will protect him from all difficulties. Yoga Kshema Vahamyam. There is no need of thinking how one should keep the body and soul together. Krishna will see to that. One should always think himself helpless and should consider Krishna as the only basis for his progress in life. As soon as one seriously engages himself in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, one at once becomes freed from all contamination of material nature. There are different processes of religion and purificatory processes by cultivation of knowledge, meditation in the mystic yoga system, etc. But one who surrenders unto Krishna does not have to execute so many methods. That simple surrender unto Krishna will save him from unnecessary wasting time. One can thus make all progress at once and be freed from all sinful reactions. I find that very nice. Thanks, Prabhu. It's a bit of both. That's from my understanding. If anyone wants to jump in, I should say I don't know, but from my reading of the chapter, it's a bit of both. In one sense, they go to Brahma because they know where this is all coming. They know someone who's provided them all this, the ways in which they are living. And so they go to the right person at this point in time. But they're going for a particular purpose. It's not to go, I'm going to surrender everything unto you, Brahma, so you can offer it to Krishna. It's, hey, our positions are in danger. We need help. From Srikanta Sena Prabhu.
It's interesting how you're talking about this whole topic of strategies. I was reading the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. One of the verses talks about how even practicing sense gratification on the rules and regulations, if one is too attached to it, one may go astray. And Prabhupada gives the example of even the vaccines from the world. So I wanted to know, when we practice, like Prabhupada gives the example of the unhealthy patient and the desire to eat, whatever food stuff it is, which is right, for them it's for their health, like you mentioned. But I want to know what happens to one who's too attached to that, and how can they come out of it?
Mm-hmm.
Because the regulation is there, but they're still attached. The regulation is there, but they're unable to let go of this.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. In one sense, I have people like that in my life through the yoga community. We have many people who are very attached to this yoga practice. They'll be able to touch their legs and do all kinds of asanas, and that's, they have to do it every single day, and if you don't do it. But Krishna, of course, like you said, Krishna says if you're too attached to these processes, then also that's a problematic situation. And it comes from that this attachment is shown, and one who is intelligent will identify that even though I'm practicing these methods and I'm so attached to them, I'm actually not getting the fruits of that practice. One who is too attached to this yoga process, that yoga process, this Ashtanga process, and too attached, they will never obtain the results of that, which is ultimately to shoot the soul through the cranium up into the sky. They'll never obtain that. Because they still think that I'm doing all of this stuff. This is me. I have this capacity, and I'm going to keep doing it every single day. So there's two ways one can actually. One is through one's own intelligence, but ultimately there's one domain which one must go through. It's through the authoritative source, the person, the Bhagavatam, the person Bhagavatam, and the book Bhagavatam. That's the only place in which one must go to obtain this authoritative. Otherwise, if you actually think about it, them performing it and being attached to it, that's their own. They've just invented their own dharma there. They've just concocted their own dharma, that this is the only way and I must do this all the time. That's not what it says. They've concocted, and so they've fallen back into that stage. The only way is good fortune. It's good fortune, and obviously, which is obviously through the devotee. It's param dristva nivartante. They have to experience the high taste through devotional service. Because it's hard for them to actually understand if they've only got to this position where they're so attached to it because they completely believe that either that's the only way or I'm experiencing the best thing out there in that position. There's nothing else more. And so if one actually shows them practices like kirtan, like worship here, like chanting Hare Krishna, and they experience prasadam from the Lord. All of those things are opportunities for them to actually experience a higher taste, be able to remove themselves from, and we have personal experience of that from in our Sangha. Is there anyone wants to add to that? I would love to hear, Prabhu. Anything else, Vaishnavis?
So it's really easy to kind of just perform the duties, your prescribed duties, but then to get who it's for or what it's for. Like I find it very easy just to kind of get lost in this is just literally what we do every day. And then I guess that falls into the second category. But to get to that point where everything's for Krishna, how do you install that in your brain and not get like just in the habit?
Good question. I have an example from my own experience, but I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm just saying I have an example from my experience, which is yoga. That's important for my body, because otherwise I'll wake up and I can't move and I can't do anything. Can't sit down and chant Hare Krishna. It's the only reason I do yoga. I can't sit down. But after I do that practice, or during that practice, I listen to Prabhupada, but after that practice, I actually do the offering. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya. When we do these things which link it to Krishna, Krishna, I'm doing this for you. We have to always put that in the forefront of whatever we do. If we remember Krishna, like I'm in this Grahastha ashram because I want to get closer to you. I'm not in this Grahastha ashram because I want to be married forever. I want to ultimately serve you. This is a position in which I want to serve you. Please give me service. We continually perform it in that respect. And in that way, Krishna never lets us down, actually. Like I was just saying, Tesham Nitya Bhayuktanam Yoga Kshema Vaham Yaham. That verse of Krishna always preserving what we lack and carrying what we have. Carrying what we lack and preserving what we have. He's doing that in spiritual life, not in material life. It's not going to happen in that, it's material life. So if we're performing spiritual life and we have that really pure desire that I really want to connect with Krishna, then naturally Krishna will carry us. We should have that faith, we should have that Shraddha, that Krishna, and we get that by constantly listening, constantly being around devotees, engaging in the practice of Krishna consciousness very fervently. And in that way we will not go astray. It's very easy to go astray as soon as you stop little practices here and there. If you don't have a sadhana program, we make all these plans, career plans, baby plans, family plans, all these plans. We do all sorts of planning, but when it comes to spiritual life, sometimes it's a bit hard. Let things go here and there. I've experienced even recently like that, and I can see this little song is stuck in my head. And it takes from one song, keep going. What's that song talking about? This person, go through this, go to all these different social media, and then I'm gone. I'm lost. It just takes that one little skinny man on the Tamakrishna Maharaj gives that example of busy Mumbai train. Yeah, busy Mumbai train. It's fully packed. Everyone's sweating. It's hot. It's packed like sardines, and then all of a sudden, some skinny man comes, and he looks very disheveled, and he probably doesn't have a place to go. He's very sweaty, and you look very sorry, and he sees a little space that you've given, and there's not enough space. You can't sit there, but you feel sorry, and you go, okay, what can I do? You let them sit, so they sit. It's okay, I can manage. I'll deal with it. But then all of a sudden, he brings his kid. His little kid comes along. His kid's like, oh, fine. And then his kid sits on his lap, and then he's got two of them, and he sits there, and then you have to move even more. And you squish to the side and go, oh, why did I let him? And all of a sudden, he brings his fat wife. And then you come sit down, and then you've got no space, you get up and you go, and you've this nice little seat that you've prepared for, that you've obtained and you've got for yourself. So, yes, it's very difficult, but we should consistently have this program. Then Krishna will never let us down. Yes, Natasha. Actually, particularly in the beginning of a devotional life, which I'm still practicing, it's very difficult to actually understand what is the best for us. It's usually done. It's usually given to us by someone who's gone through that experience before. We can see that in mature life, but it's also true in spiritual life as well. Someone who's gone through that process before is obviously going to be in a better position for us to understand, especially if they understand. If you've revealed your mind and they can understand what's your character like, what's the best way to engage you. That's why being under the shelter of senior devotees and devotees who've practiced for a long time is actually very, very important for our spiritual life. At least that's from my experience. Guru as well, particularly. Guru understands what's good for his or her disciple in that respect. So in that way, we should take instruction. But of course, we can't take instruction of everything. Sometimes we feel like we can't take instruction of everything. That way we have. That's why we do some what I did was trying to first, okay, what's my limit? What's the best I can do? And then you work from there. Sometimes a bit of trial and error, but if you're going to do some trial and error, you've got to be under the shelter of devotees. If you're going to do trial and error and then not really have a proper program and not have the association of devotees, not consistently read and chant, then it's very, very difficult, I would say. But you have a very nice Sangha group, I know. You can always ask those questions and reveal your mind. And when you reveal your mind, you glorify those people who you know. You glorify those people who you know who actually attain. You can understand what people are doing based off their conduct. Like Ganesham Prabhu says, if I can see someone who sweeps the floor, I can see how they're chanting their rounds, I can see how they're doing their sadhana. You can see it by their conduct, and you can go ask them. I can see you're very balanced, and you clearly have this balanced approach. Tell me how. Hare Krishna. Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.